Here is a city born on a hillside sloping down into the sea. One of the oldest ports in Europe, the bridgehead of a vast 15th century maritime empire. This is Genoa, Genova in Italian, where Christopher Columbus was born. Today, more than 750,000 inhabitants live in this city, which has become Italy's largest commercial harbour. Here, giants of the sea drop anchor right in the middle of the city. Genoa is one of the last remaining cities in Europe where the port hasn't been relegated to the outskirts. But for the continuous traffic of ships near the quarters surrounding the harbour, nothing seems to have changed. Still the same old narrow streets, colourful facades, and delicate play of light that is so very Italian. A deep blue sky slips into the folds of a new landscape that is less urban. As we leave Genoa behind and follow along the Ligurian coast, we encounter other types of light, other contours as well. In the dim light of the waning day, we think how nothing should be left to chance. Behind each point, behind every tree, there is life. And like a mirage, a village materializes, ageless and dignified. Portofino, the secret haven of an Italy of milk and honey, where the international jet set have staked their claim and aren't about to share their treasure. No new buildings in the past 50 years. Car traffic is strictly regulated. Like in Genoa, we are enchanted by the pastel facades of the former fishermen's homes, some of which are painted in trompe-l'œil. This region, extending on either side of the Gulf of Genoa, is referred to as the Italian Riviera. Well before we reach the major harbour of La Spezia, we pass over other villages nestled at the foot of mountains whose highest peaks reach high indeed, nearly 1,000 meters. We're in the north of Italy, on the banks of the Ligurian Sea. From Genoa on, the coast points directly south. Once we've passed the Tuscany shores, we head towards the Tyrrhenian Sea. An amalgam of a city rooted in both Greek and Roman civilizations. This is Naples. Naples and its bay, sprawling at the foot of a volcano that sleeps with one eye cracked open. Vesuvius. Over 1 million people live here. They've learned to put up with numerous jolts and tremors, be they seismic, political, or economic. Naples is more than just the capital of Campania. It is the emblem of Mezzogiorno, the ensemble of provinces composing southern Italy, the poorest in the entire country. The regions that would send whole trains full of workers to the big cities in the north. Baroque, aristocratic, proletarian, exuberant, cinematographic, Naples is capable of everything, and it does much more than just get by. It's the picture of vitality. The boats at the end of the streets remind us that the city is still a major harbour serving numerous islands and destinations throughout the entire Mediterranean. Naples is Italy's only capital, claimed Stendhal. In the contrasting light of a stormy day, we discover the city, immensely sprawling with its bedroom communities that are more easily accessible by train than via the heavy traffic of the highways. There aren't many of these cities where you find kids playing on fields of black sand, the volcanic sand that lines the shores before we reach another town that's nearly 2,000 years old. Pompeii. Pompeii had a population of 25,000 when Vesuvius erupted. For 17 centuries, the Roman city lay buried under 6 meters of ash. What was daily life like here in ancient times before that fateful day of August 24th, 79 AD? You can get an idea by spending a few hours wandering around the 64 hectares replete with history and memory. And we wonder how many archaeologists devoted their lives to unearthing all this. How many hours were spent stooped over or lying in the dirt to bring these streets, homes, temples, thermal baths and theatres back to life? And the digging is still going on today. Yet the ruins of Pompeii can barely be distinguished amidst this enormous urban sprawl encircled by highways and train tracks. The sun is sinking into the Gulf of Naples. A few kilometers from Pompeii, the Queen of Italy's islands drinks in the dying rays of light. Legend has it, this is where Ulysses met up with the sirens. This is Capri. Capri and its myth eclipse everything else in the region. The lights of the city, as well as the other islands in the Gulf of Naples. The island is home to every desire, every voyage, perhaps even every caprice. Italy and romanticism to the umpteenth degree, the very image of Paradise Lost with its belvederes and promontories. It's impossible to resist it. Like a movie star at the height of her glory, Capri has always been adored. An island of destinies, a destiny of an island where thousands of tourists flock each year to the pedestrian streets of the town of Anacapri or to the gardens of Mount Tiberias nearly 300 meters above sea level. Opposite Capri, in this falsely idyllic bay, a relatively short boat ride takes us to an intriguing island where we lose our sense of bearing. Procida, the true pearl of the Gulf of Naples. It lives simply in the shadow of its neighbors, without any flourish. No private pools or four-star hotels, no fancy restaurants or art galleries in Procida. Spared the hordes of summer tourists that flock to nearby Capri or Ischia, Procida is the poorest island in the Gulf of Naples. Procida is more than just an island. It's a world unto itself, just a stone's throw from Naples, city of extravagance. Return now to the Gulf of Naples. We leave the islands behind and follow along the coast a short ways towards the Sorrento Peninsula. In no time at all, we discover a completely new atmosphere. Here, the sea is everywhere. Sea and mountains are inextricably linked. Churches and all sorts of edifices perch along this rugged, cliff-lined coast. The villages cling to the sides of the cliffs. Lemon and orange trees abound in the gardens, depending on the green thumbs of local farmers on the Sorrento Peninsula and the Amalfi coast. Like one big balcony stretching 20-some kilometers along the Tyrrhenian Sea, we find panoramic, winding roads that snake along the steep hillsides. Watchtowers and villages, many which date back to the days of antiquity. Harbours, too, that have nestled in amidst the mountains, Positano, Ravello or Amalfi. This is a land of seafarers. Amalfi was the first maritime republic in Italy, an autonomous power that controlled Mediterranean commerce for over 3 centuries. Was it the good fortune of being born in a spot where you can always see the sea, even from the valleys? At the time of the Roman Empire, the Gulf of Naples was considered the world's primary maritime center. And Amalfi, an inventive, dynamic, modern city and home to progressive minds. This is where the first nautical code was decreed, well before the other Italian maritime republics. Today, it's the highway code that needs to be adapted to fit the landscape. Just past the Gulf of Salerno, still steeped in the history of the former maritime republics, we need to journey even further back in time, 5 centuries BC. This is Paestum, with its 3 Greek temples dating back to the days when it was known as Poseidonia. They stand as witnesses to the glory of a Greece that wielded its influence for 3 whole centuries across all of southern Italy and into Sicily. That was 2,500 years ago. We linger in the final foothills of Campania before hitting the road to Calabria. The land grows drier, the vegetation changes and the temperature goes up a few degrees. We've crossed a meteorological border. The climate here is truly Mediterranean, not at all unlike the neighboring African countries. Once we hit Tropea, we're well advanced on our road south and almost at the tip of the boot. It's a lazy Saturday, and it's still too early and too hot to stroll down the pedestrian streets in the middle of the day. Here we are in the heart of Calabria, one of Italy's poorest regions, one of its least known, but also one of its most authentic. Heading for Sicily, the coast picks up color and contour along the chain of mountains that slices Calabria in two. Not long ago, getting around here was no easy task. Costly highway infrastructures have made car travel less dangerous and the coastal villages more accessible. We take a detour by the port of Scylla, from the expression caught between Scylla and Charybdis. In antiquity, ships that crossed the Straits of Messina quickly got swept into the strong sea currents. Those that managed to steer clear of Charybdis would get smashed into Scylla. The Strait of Messina is 2 kilometers wide. It separates Sicily from the rest of Italy and looks like it still will for years to come. The controversial project of a bridge linking the two has been shelved. We follow along the coast towards Catania, a major city on Sicily's east coast, with black sand beaches like we saw in Naples. Catania has evolved at the foot of Europe's biggest volcano, Mount Etna, whose head is often in the clouds. At 3,350 meters high, it seems to dominate the entire Mediterranean. Lava flows, forests and vineyards flank the slopes of Mount Etna. A cable car carts tourists up to the craters. Etna is alive and well, rumbling and belching continuously. People here are used to it. The apocalypse isn't going to happen tomorrow. That being said, it does look a bit like the moon. One island stands out strikingly in the Tyrrhenian Sea, Stromboli. It bears the name of one of the rare volcanoes in Europe, along with Etna, that's in constant activity. In a nearly continuous state of eruption for the past 2,000 years, Stromboli's activity hit a peak 1 September the 11th. In 1930, the island was lifted from the sea and chunks weighing over 30 tons were projected into the air to fall in a 3-kilometer radius. Today, as in the words of Jules Verne, the mountain breathes like a huge whale, puffing fire and wind. Despite lava flows and the risk of tidal waves, explosions and eruptions, despite landslides and the scent of sulfur, the island of Stromboli is still inhabited. Thousands of summer tourists, for a population of about 300 in winter. Fishermen, shopkeepers, tourist guides. Stromboli is where they call home. They've gathered in 2 villages that lie more or less out of reach from the volcano's petulant moods. In late 2002, Stromboli was rocked by a tremor so strong its population had to be evacuated by boat. 40-some diehards refused to go. The rest were taken to the neighboring Aeolian Islands, but they've since returned. Along with Stromboli, the Aeolian archipelago includes 7 islands. They emerged from the sea not long ago. Young islands, just a few hundred centuries old. One of them is called Lipari. It's the most populated and has the longest history. An ancient acropolis perched near a castle on an expanse of lava rock stands as proof that the Greeks, after Sicily, managed to find their way to the Aeolians. And this is the spot where the Greek god Aeolus is said to have granted Ulysses himself power to control the winds, which explains where the islands got their name. The eternal legends haven't been driven away by the Vespers and tourists. The myth is kept alive here, much appreciated by visitors to the island. The people living on Lipari have been eternally grateful for the unique white mountain that rises in the north of the island. This is where the world's supply of pumice stone comes from. As a result, the deposit is shrinking. We leave the Tyrrhenian Sea behind and leap over the boot. We arrive on the east coast for a change of scenery, the Adriatic coast. Apulia, another Italy. Other landscapes, other maritime cultures, another appropriation of the coastal space. Summer's over. The beaches of Pescara are already deserted. Time to get ready for winter, take down the parasols. Another 6 months, then summer will be back, and we'll be selling ice cream left and right again. It's desertion after the mobs, the calm after the storm. The beaches that were jam-packed from mid-July through August have been replaced by abruptly abandoned terraces and drawn curtains. Such is the fate of resort towns along the Adriatic. Either they're cram-packed or else forlornly desolate. As we head northwards, the highways and railroads seem to multiply, no doubt due to the proximity of major industrial towns like Turin, Milan, Bologna, and Parma. Halfway there, in the heart of Abruzzi, there's another shift in scenery and space. a succession of stone villages perched slightly inland along the undulating coast. The coast has two levels here, and people have learned to be wary of the whims of the Adriatic, a sea that, like any other, gnaws constantly away at the shore. Ancona, a harbour just a short sail from the islands of Croatia across the way. Sea traffic is heavy between here and Zadar, Split, Dubrovnik and Greece. Shipyards here are busy, building dozens of cruise liners and ferries, giving other European shipyards some stiff competition. Then once again, vast expanses stretch before us. Here's Rimini, legendary city of the filmmaker Fellini. A 15-kilometer long beach whose upper part is sectioned off into numbered bars and restaurants. The parasols have been put away, and to make sure everything's all set for next summer, the sand is pushed back away from the shore. That way it won't get blown away by the winter winds. And Rimini will still be Rimini with its 1,300 hotels. Beyond the beaches and lidos, nightclubs and pizzerias, the Adriatic coast takes on a starkly different demeanor with the Po Delta. Stretching over nearly 50,000 square kilometers, the delta forms one of the largest fertile plains in Europe. This protected space is a gift from heaven for the innumerable bird species living here. Diverted from its natural flow by the Venetians to avoid any risk of flood, the Po branches into several arms before it empties into the Adriatic, Lucky River. The hand of man can definitely be felt in the plain. In several places we find what are called trabocchi, structures perched in the brackish waters of the river, all throughout the delta. Fishing on a trabocchi means learning to listen to the currents and to observe the colors of the water and the sky. A celebration of silence. We return to the waterfront as we continue north, leaving the impersonal resort towns behind. Elongated islands, a gently curving line traced through the water, announces an entirely unique maritime world. The Lagoon of Venice, a marshy space that is neither land nor sea. The waters of the lagoon are shallow yet plentiful. Other fishermen have also staked their claim, living on the water, like in these huts patched together out of odds and ends. It's almost as if each island here had its own function. From San Clemente, which used to be an insane asylum, to San Michele, the island graveyard, to the island of Burano. There's a lot of boat traffic between the islands and the mainland. Vaporettos or taxi boats navigate back and forth from the island city that gave this lagoon its name, Venice. Venice and its Grand Canal, the main thoroughfare lined by 100-some palaces built by rich Venetian merchants in the city's glory days. Venice. 118 islands, 160 canals, 400 bridges. City of art, city of theatre, balls and opera. A population of nearly 200,000 in 1950, but only about 60,000 today. After Genoa and Amalfi, what other city on the peninsula highlights so well the atavistic link the Italians have with the world of water? Despite the Acqua Alta, the recurrent high tides that flood St. Mark's Square every fall, the city seems eternal. The day draws to a close, as does our journey. The sun sets over the Venetian Republic, and we've reached the end of our storybook of light along the Italian coast. We say goodbye to Venice and its lagoon, silhouetted against the backdrop of a golden sky.